This is what our digital CCG chrono cards looked like a couple months ago. And this is what it looks like now. Be careful who you call ugly in middle school. It still has a long way to go before it's done, but we've done a lot of work lately. So whether you're brand new here or you're one of the few who've been following development for a while, let me catch you up to speed. I'll give you the scoop on everything that went into making these ugly gray boxes look like something resembling a game. And if you stick around to the end, we have an exciting announcement for you. But first, if you would, indulge me in a little recap. I promise I'll make it quick. Chrono Cards is a game about two time travelers fighting. You play cards onto the timeline, where their position determines whether they are in the past, present, or future. On each turn, the cards in the present will activate their abilities and do combat. And then, at the end of each turn, time progresses forward, leaving one present card in the past and bringing one future card into the present. That was the very first idea, the core mechanic that the whole game was built around. Not only do you have to think about what cards to play and when, but also when, which is to say on what turn and also at what point on the timeline. You can always count on time travel to keep things straightforward. It is a system that is dynamic, novel, fun, and deep. At least we hope so. So we put the idea to the test as fast as possible by making a paper prototype. Except paper is actually still too slow. So we used Tabletop Simulator and a tool called Dexterous to iterate at spreadsheet speed. From these early playtests, we learned a lot about what worked, what didn't, and what we needed to pay extra close attention to when it came time to implement this game in code. Armed with all these lessons, we made a plan for implementing everything and got to work. We put together a bare-bones digital prototype, and feedback from playtesters confirmed our own observations. The game had promise, it just needed refinement. That's about where we left off on our last devlog. It didn't look very exciting yet, and we didn't even really have much of a theme. We just had generic placeholder fantasy and sci-fi names for all the cards. We decided this would be a great time to commit to submitting our Steam page to the Steam Deckbuilder Fest, which was happening in 1 month. A Steam page, by the way, that didn't exist yet, because the game looked like this. It was time to lock in. And we started with the theme. Settling on a theme was a can that we'd been kicking down the road for longer than we should have. So, in the end, we did what we probably should have from the start and just pitched our two favorite concepts to people and let them decide. One of these concepts was the Grand Temporal Tournament. In this version, Chrono Cards is also the name of an in-universe card game that has existed throughout all of human history. It gets passed down generation after generation for thousands of years because it's just that good. So good, in fact, that eventually its time travel mechanics inspire someone to invent time travel in real life. But rather than using this power to rewrite history or become the most powerful individual in the universe, instead they use it to host a massive tournament with all of the best Chrono Cards players from across history to definitively prove who is the greatest Chrono Cards player of all times. And you are invited. What we liked about this concept is that we felt it gave us a very distinct personality and flavor to inject into the game. We could really riff on the tournament theme for everything from marketing to UI design, and from a very meta game design perspective, we thought it was a really interesting challenge for us to create a game that supposedly has existed forever from the ground up. Not only were we thinking of what cards we as the developers might think were interesting, but what cards would a 12th century monarch have wanted to design? Or a caveman? Or someone from the year 2800? Ultimately, though, the problem with this pitch was that people didn't get it. Even after a couple of revisions, the setting, the tone, and the meta element of the game within a game was too much to convey quickly. And this was coming from people who were carefully reading what we had to say and writing up their feedback. To the average viewer on a Steam page, they were gonna bounce right off. In the end, we opted for the much more straightforward theme that puts you more directly in the action. You are a time traveler, and you are fighting another time traveler. You summon knights and volcanoes and spaceships and the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. You have all of history at your fingertips to gain the upper hand against your opponent. And when you're on the brink of defeat, you can always just rewind time to before you were losing, leaving your opponent victorious in that timeline, but you get to live to fight another day, and another, and another, until you've forgotten what exactly you were fighting for in the first place. Oh well, plenty of time to figure that out once you've won. This one people get instantly. It's the age-old premise shared by any number of big card games like Magic the Gathering. You're summoning guys to fight the other guy's guys. Except these guys come from our own history, or at least a history that closely resembles our own. You may have taken a few creative liberties. When it comes to the future, you kinda gotta guess a little. For the initial launch of the game, we decided on 5 distinct eras within which we would theme all of our cards. Prehistoric, classical, medieval, industrial, and galactic, the only future era in the initial set. We'll probably talk more about these eras in a future video, but the important part is that they are, for the most part, purely thematic. Though cards are generally designed to synergize with other cards within that era, mixing and matching cards from different eras in your deck is expected and encouraged. There's not any sort of mechanical limitation. We want you to feel the fantasy of leveraging all of history to help you win. But if you want to play a deck of only dinosaurs, I mean, who can blame you? We had our theme in place, but our deadline was fast approaching, and we had a lot of work to do to make this not look like we made it in Microsoft Word. And a big part of that was card art. One of the first things we did was write out a rough script for the trailer so that we knew exactly which cards were going to feature in it. And that list of cards became the to-do list for brand new card art. So while Honor got to work grinding out dozens of full card artworks, there was one piece of artwork that was not on her to-do list: the capsule art. The capsule art is the Steam equivalent of a thumbnail on YouTube. It's the first thing a random shopper on Steam is going to see about your game, and aside from your title and maybe a handful of tags, the only tool you have to convince them to click through and learn more about your game, and hopefully buy it. And much like YouTube thumbnails, there is a whole design language and psychology to these things that goes beyond just the aesthetic quality of the art. Basically, it's really freaking important, which is why it's such a common piece of advice for indie devs to get their Steam capsule art professionally made by a specialist.
Don't make your own thumbnail, because you need a professional illustrator to make something interesting.
So that's exactly what we did. We reached out to an artist named Daniel Cunha to design our capsule art, and the results were absolutely phenomenal. We wrote up this report to describe our game and generally what we were looking for in the capsule art. And then he sent us back a sketch. We gave our notes and he came back with some changes to ask about what we thought, and we went back and forth like that so many times until finally we had our finished product. And holy moly, look at the finished product. Look at the spaceships, the blimps, the dinosaurs. You gotta click on this for the dinosaurs if nothing else. I mean, this guy's gonna freaking eat you. It's awesome. The art was in motion, but there was still a really big visual element that needed a lot of work: the UI. And we started with the card layout. I gathered up a list of all the information we wanted to convey on each card, and tried to arrange it in a way that followed conventions I noticed from studying card layouts in other games. For example, health is usually red, and strength is usually orange, and cost is always in the top left corner. To make the cards look more exciting in your hand, each era also has its own color scheme, and an icon that shows up on all cards that belong to that era. Moving on to the match UI, I swapped out these ugly vertical bars that used to indicate which slots were in the present, and instead I replaced them with these labeled boxes that are a little more clear and can be smoothly animated. I made assets for the health bars and mana indicators, rearranged some things slightly, and added some entirely new info on the screen, like counters showing how many cards are in each player's hand and discard pile. We also added this background, which is no longer in the game. The reason... Well, this background is actually just a modified version of a really cool shader we found online. The issue is that, well, it turns out that drawing an entire galaxy to a texture every single frame is actually pretty demanding on the graphics card, meaning that this lightweight card game would lag on less capable machines. I mean, it looks cool and all, but not worth forcing players to fork over a kidney just to afford a GPU that can play the thing. We've since swapped it out for this background, which uses the particle system instead, and it's much lighter weight. And I have to say, I think I prefer it anyway. There was still one crucial element left to implement, the secret sauce that would elevate this game from boring, moving rectangles to something truly exciting. Animations. Animations in digital card games these days are not just a bonus, they're an expectation. Whether that's mostly simple little slice effects like the original Slay the Spire, or over 100 fully rendered 3D cutscenes like Legends of Runeterra, animations add a visual spice that you just can't get from a physical card game, and they make your cards feel 10 times more impactful. We're shooting for somewhere in between the same reused slice animation from Slay the Spire and the fully rendered 3D cutscenes of Legends of Runeterra. Many of the cards will have their own custom animations, but they'll be kept reasonable in scope because we have one person in charge of all the animations, and they require a bunch of custom code, assets, shaders, and time spent tweaking it to look just right. But again, we were able to take some shortcuts here. We had our list of cards that would be featured in the trailer, so we prioritized those to make them look as good as possible. Still, that left a lot of card animations to do, not to mention general purpose animations for actions like healing, striking, and even a victory animation at the end of the game. So in this time, we were redesigning the whole UI, creating dozens of new card arts and custom animations, coordinating the creation of our capsule art, boarding, recording, scoring, and editing our trailer, designing and printing physical flyers, writing our descriptions, picking our tags, debugging, and... Wait, go back one. Oh yeah, we also graduated. Needless to say, it was a busy time. But in the end, we made it. We got our Steam page submitted, and it was there. It was on Steam, and it was in the list of upcoming games featured in the Deckbuilder Fest. So how much did that help us? A little? Probably. Because we didn't have a demo out yet, we were relegated to the upcoming section of the fest. And because we were brand new, we didn't have any wish list going into it, further pushing us down the list. So the number of people that would have actually seen us through the Deckbuilder Fest page itself was probably pretty low. Higher than it would have been without the Deckbuilder Fest. Maybe? There's no way to know for sure. Steam Analytics don't separate out visits from the festival pages into their own category. It probably would have done more for us if we had done our due diligence in really heavily promoting the game leading up to and during the festival. But due to the aforementioned graduating and the projects and finals that we had leading up to it, we unfortunately just didn't have time to do as much marketing as we should have. Right now, we're sitting at about 100 wish lists, which isn't terrible, but also not great. There's not a lot we could have done about it, but it was still a lesson well taken for the future. Probably the most helpful thing was just giving ourselves a deadline, because now we have a Steam page and a game that actually looks like a game. But the Deckbuilder Fest was a month ago. What have we been up to since then? Well, that's our big announcement. We've been preparing to expand to a public playtest that you can join. One of the biggest things we had left to do was to put together an in-game tutorial. Before now, we've always had a dev available to teach everyone how to play, but that's not really going to work in the long run. The tutorial is something we really want to get right, and we're probably not quite there yet, so we'd especially love to hear your feedback on how it can be improved. If you watch to the end of this video, chances are you might be interested in trying the game for yourself. If so, here are the steps you need to do so. Step 1, join our Discord server. It's brand new, it's where we're gonna post patch notes and updates, gather feedback, and host designated playtest times to help you find a match more easily. Step 2, sign up for our playtest through Steam. Go to our Steam page and click the big ol' green button to join. Step 3, invite your friends. Right now, open matchmaking is the only way to play, but private matches with your Steam friends are coming as soon as possible. And right now, there's not always a lot of people in the servers, so if it's just you two, well, you're guaranteed to get matched together. We're looking forward to seeing you in the playtest. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe so that you can catch all the future updates. We've got plenty more coming. If you want to catch up on all the previous devlogs, you can find them all here. And if you like this stuff, you might also like this physical board game we made that you can 3D print and play yourself. Or maybe you trust the almighty YouTube algorithm more to pick out a suitable video for you. So many good options. You can't go wrong. But you do have to click on one. You gotta click fast. The video's ending. Hurry, click, no!